Let's get straight to the point. Number 8. The joy of missing out. JOMO. Imagine it's 1998 and you tell your coworkers you have zero plans for Friday night. They'd look at you like you've started a collection of human fingernails. Staying home used to mean you were a social pariah, a sad loner waiting for a landline to ring that never would. But now? Oh, how the tables have turned. Canceling plans is considered a hit of pure dopamine. We've rebranded being a boring, antisocial hermit into protecting your peace and curating your energy. People brag about their hermit era while hiding under a $300 weighted blanket. It's a stealth resource flex. To be a successful recluse, you need a nice apartment, 16 streaming services, and enough disposable income to order overpriced Uber Eats, because walking outside is offensive to your vibe. Scientists have studied this. Reducing social stimulation can significantly lower cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. While you're at a sticky, loud club, I am achieving peak biological efficiency by doing nothing.
Number 7. Fermented foods, the gut microbiome flex. If you smelled like a damp basement and sour cabbage 20 years ago, people would assume you'd been living in a dumpster. Eating food that sat in a jar of salt for 6 months was once considered a sign of famine or desperation. It was smelly, weird, and definitely not a vibe. Fast forward to today, and rotting has been rebranded as artisanal fermentation. Now if your kitchen doesn't look like a mad scientist's lab filled with bubbling jars of kimchi, are you even healthy? We've turned the gut microbiome into the ultimate social flex. Science confirms our intestines house trillions of microbes, regulating everything from immunity to mood. This internal garden is now a status symbol. People pay $15 for a bottle of kombucha that tastes like a fermented foot just to prove they're nurturing good bacteria. It's the only time in history where having a stomach full of live cultures is a sign of wealth rather than a reason to call a doctor. You aren't just eating old cabbage, you're hosting a high-end gala for your microbes.
Number 6. The emotional support water bottle. Walking around with a massive 2-liter jug used to be for hardcore bodybuilders or people whose radiator just exploded on a highway. If you hauled a giant water container into a meeting in 2005, people would assume you were prepping for a medical procedure or just incredibly lost. It was clunky, uncool, and desperate. But look at us now. We've turned basic hydration into a competitive sport and a high-fashion accessory. Today, if you aren't clutching a 60-ounce vacuum-insulated steel cylinder that costs more than a decent pair of shoes, do you even exist? These emotional support bottles are the new Birkin bags. It's not just about drinking, it's about signaling you care about the planet and your cells more than everyone else. Scientifically, hydration is vital for cognitive function, but let's be real, you're mostly carrying it to show off that limited edition finish. We've decided that carrying 3 pounds of metal everywhere is the sign of a disciplined life. Plus, it protects your blood from becoming a soup of endocrine-disrupting microplastics. It is the heaviest flex.
Number 5. The cold plunge, elite suffering. Getting into a tub filled with ice used to be a form of medieval torture or something you did because you lost a bet at a frat party. If your neighbors saw you shivering in a galvanized steel bucket in the backyard 10 years ago, they'd call a wellness check or assume your furnace exploded. It was a sign of madness, not a morning routine. But fast forward to the era of the biohacker, and suddenly paying $5,000 for a high-tech refrigerated coffin is the ultimate power move. We've turned basic hypothermia into a personality trait. The goal is to look miserable for Instagram to prove you have more discipline than the average mortal. Scientifically, extreme cold triggers a release of norepinephrine and dopamine while activating brown fat for thermogenesis. It's a biological reset button that costs as much as a used sedan. You aren't just freezing, you're optimizing vascular tone and building mental fortitude. It turns out that shivering until your teeth rattle is the new Ferrari. If you aren't fighting for your life in 30-degree water every Tuesday, are you even trying to live? We used to invent heaters to avoid this exact sensation, but apparently comfort is now for the weak and lazy.
Number 4. The chunky dad sneaker. Take a long look at what your middle-aged geography teacher wore on a field trip in 1995. Those beige orthopedic sneakers used to be the international symbol of, "I have officially given up on life and likely spend my weekends power walking through a suburban mall." If you wore those to a party a decade ago, you were announcing that you prioritized arch support over any shred of social dignity. But today, those dad shoes are rebranded as the pinnacle of high-fashion normcore. Designers are charging $1,000 for footwear that looks like a foot-shaped loaf of bread. We've decided that the uglier the shoe, the more avant-garde the wearer. Scientifically, these massive soles provide superior shock absorption by distributing vertical impact across a wider surface area, protecting your kinetic chain. While you look like you're wearing 2 cinder blocks, you're actually optimizing your biomechanics. You pay a premium to look ready to mow the lawn at any moment. Wearing shoes designed by podiatrists is the ultimate flex. Number 3. Intermittent fasting, the cult of not eating. Refusing a free bagel in the office 10 years ago used to be a social disaster. Your coworkers would whisper and try to slide a granola bar under your cubicle door out of pure pity. Skipping meals was a sign that you were either too poor for lunch or too stressed to chew. But now, starvation has been rebranded into the ultimate metabolic flex. We call it intermittent fasting, which is just a fancy way of saying you're currently hangry and want everyone to know it. Today, bragging about not eating for 20 hours is the new way to tell people you're more disciplined than a monk. Scientifically speaking, this triggers autophagy, where your body eats its own damaged components to recycle waste. It's a spring cleaning for your DNA that makes you feel like a biological god. You're not starving, you're inducing cellular renewal. We've turned a basic biological necessity into a luxury choice. Only the truly successful can afford to ignore their stomachs screaming for a full day. It's the ultimate elitist play. Number 2, the sleep optimization obsession. In the old days, telling your boss you slept 10 hours was a one-way ticket to the unemployment line. Sleeping was once for the lazy or the literal uninspired. The old flex was the grind, shuffling into work on 4 hours of caffeine and pure spite while looking like an extra from a zombie movie. But now, the sheets have turned. Boasting about sleep hygiene is the new power move. People drop $500 on titanium smart rings just to have a tiny app tell them they are actually tired. We've turned a basic human function into a high-stakes data competition. Scientifically, your brain uses sleep to activate the glymphatic system, which washes away metabolic waste and neurotoxic proteins that build up during the day. It's a literal pressure wash for your brain. Today, the most successful people aren't working late. They have a sleep architect and a mattress that costs more than a German sedan. If your readiness score isn't 98% by dawn, do you even exist? You aren't napping, you're engaging in neurological restoration. Being rested is the ultimate sign you've won. Number 1. Foraging. Eating like a peasant. Think back to a time when seeing a grown man picking weeds from a ditch was cause for a community-wide pity party. A century ago, eating dandelions and stinging nettles was a neon sign that your family was one missed harvest away from total starvation. If you were spotted harvesting greens from the side of a dusty road, it was a social tragedy, not a weekend hobby. But today, the foraged label is the ultimate culinary flex at Michelin star restaurants. We've rebranded poverty-induced survival into gastronomic rewilding. Now, if you aren't risking a poison ivy rash to harvest wild ramps in a secret forest location, you're just another basic supermarket drone. Scientifically, wild plants often contain significantly higher concentrations of phytonutrients and antioxidants compared to their domesticated, mass-produced cousins because they must survive without human help. You aren't just eating weeds, you're consuming stress-adapted nutrients.
It's the highest form of elitism, being so wealthy that you can afford the time and specialized knowledge to eat like a 19th century peasant. You're paying a premium for the privilege of eating things your ancestors spent decades trying to spray with poison.
If you enjoyed learning why your old embarrassments are now elite flexes, hit like and share this with your unoptimized friends. Subscribe to Coolest Dude Explains for daily videos. Now, go cold plunge or whatever you do to feel superior. See you tomorrow.